2021 has been such a great year for music. Some of the best songs and music that I've heard in years has come out in the past 12 months. And in this video, we're going to be checking out my top 3 albums and EPs, as well as some other of my favorite albums and releases all across the alternative music spectrum. I always have a very hard time categorizing things and putting things into numbered lists. So rather than, give you guys like a top 10 or, a top 20 albums, I'm going to give you a top 3 EPs, a top 3 albums, and then some superlatives for some other things that I really enjoy from this year. And with that, we're going to start out with the most angry category. This superlative is going to the album that I thought was filled with the most sort of like righteous, indignant anger, and that would be Every Time I Die's Radical. This album was so good and was pretty much my introduction to Every Time I Die. I did see them live in like 2006 or 7 maybe, but it was so long ago I do not remember. I don't remember what they sounded like back then. But this album was so fantastic. Keith's vocals and lyrics are absolutely the highlight of this album for me. He has such an ability to write such poignant and ferocious lyrics. It really like encapsulates a lot of the feelings that I've had over the past couple of years through the pandemic and through all kinds of political turmoil and things like that. This album really is very cathartic in helping me to work through those feelings and stuff. And man, it is just such a great album, like with a lot of like Southern rock kind of feel to it. Even though these guys are from Buffalo, they kind of have this Southern rock kind of feel with this metalcore and hardcore influence. It's a great album, and you guys should absolutely go check it out. I'm sure you already have, but if you haven't, go do it. The next superlative I'm going to give out is the Most Genres and Influences Award. This one is going to the album that I thought had more influences and styles across the entirety of the album than any other band that I've listened to this year, and that would be Landmark's Lost in the Waves. Landmarks are such a talented band, and it's so clear that they draw inspiration from so many different places, not just from metal or core genres. Their influences are so wide-ranging on this album. Every track has such a unique feel, and it can swing wildly from one genre to another in the blink of an eye, and somehow it doesn't feel disjointed. I don't know how they do that. Them and Spiritbox, I feel like, are very good at this, but Landmarks, I feel like, had even more different styles and influences in the music that I heard on that album. So let me just list off a few that I heard. I'm sure there are more, but these are just a couple of them that I noticed. Metal, punk, hardcore, nu metal, deathcore, metalcore, hip-hop, trap, pop-punk, easycore, thrash. I'm sure there's more, but those are the ones that I picked up. It's just so wild how they've incorporated so many different sounds into this album, and it still feels cohesive, and it still is so good. I mean, in one song, they go from like an Eminem kind of style fast rap to a straight up hardcore two-step in the blink of an eye. And I think that deserves major props for pulling that off and being so good and so catchy. Mad props to Landmarks. So now we're going to do my top 3 EPs of the year. Coming in at number 3, we have Invent Animate, The Sun Sleeps as If It Never Was. This very short EP, but it is so full of incredible performances. Every single band member is at the top of their game. Everything is so tight and so technical, but without being too intimidating or too, I don't know, progressive in the way that like some technical death metal can be, where it's just like note soup. There's none of that here. Everything is just perfectly placed and perfectly timed, and it sounds fantastic. This was my first exposure to this band, thanks to Rachel Reacts. She is another YouTuber who is so fantastic, and I'm sure if you watch me, you're already subscribed to her as well. She's makes amazing content, and I was introduced to this album because she was raving about it on Twitter, and I was like, well, if Rachel likes it, then I have got to go check it out. And boy, was I so glad that I did. I was so just absolutely amazed at the quality of this album, even though it's only, like 12 minutes. Like it's very short, but it's incredible music. It's got some of the craziest breakdown riffs, just stuff that I would never ever think of. And I love the way that the vocals sound super impassioned, and like you can really feel that raw emotion in the vocals. I cannot recommend it highly enough. You should go check this album out right now. Okay, at number 2, we have The Devil Wears Prada with Z2. This EP is just so much fun. They've managed to curate such an interesting tone and sound in this collection of songs. Everything is very bleak, very atmospheric, spooky. It's like a soundtrack to a horror game. It's very, very cool. A lot of people are saying that this is Prada's best release in years, and I would definitely have to agree. I think they just keep getting better and better. I really love the unique song structures in this album. So many times I was thrown off because I was expecting another breakdown or another chorus or whatever. And they're like, no. We're gonna give you exactly what you don't expect, but it is exactly what the song needs. And I really applaud that. Really great songwriting. This EP is definitely worth your time. Just from the killer guitar riffs to Mike's insane vocals on every track, you should definitely go give this one a listen. And at number 1, my favorite EP of the year, we have Structures, None of the Above. Fight for your life. Now this one is very similar to Every Time I Die Is Radical in that it is just 15 minutes of pure rage and just frustration at the state of the world and those in power who are abusing that power, and just kind of the state of the things as they are right now. It is so cathartic to listen to this album, and the production is immaculate. Everything is so clear. You can hear the vocals so well, and the guitars are beefy. The bass is got that super grungy tone that I really enjoy. And the riffs do not stop on this album. Similar to Invent Animate, there's also really creative breakdowns and just like some incredible moments across this 15-minute EP. What a comeback for Structures. I know a lot of people were really looking forward to seeing them come back and wondering what they were going to sound like, and they knocked it out of the park. I can't wait for more from them because this was such a great introduction to the band for me. Next, we're going to give the award for Best Heavy Ambient Album, and this is going to go to Blankets, Modern Escapism. Another big thanks to Rachel Reacts for introducing me to this band. She was absolutely raving about it on Twitter, and again, I had to go check it out. It was so good. If you like slowcore, if you like shoegaze or things like that, this album should absolutely be on your listen list. It is so good. It has features from Kadeem France from Loathe. I mean, if that's not enough to get you to listen to it, I don't know what is. That song is incredible, by the way. But the album as a whole is very, very good. Really, really good music for long drives, for working. Just the ambience is so soothing, and yet there's so many catchy riffs and good grooves on this album. They really balance the ambience and the kind of metalcore influence. I don't really even know how to categorize them necessarily, but whatever they're doing, they should keep doing it because it is very, very, very good. Now I'm going to give out the award for biggest change of opinion on an album, and this one is going to Wage War's Manic. When I initially checked out some of the singles from this album, I don't know, it didn't really strike me as my kind of thing. I kind of wrote it off as generic metalcore, and that was kind of it. You know, I listened to the album once when it first came out, and I was like, yep, it's a metalcore album. I don't know what everyone likes about it so much. But as the songs kept coming up in my shuffles and in the kind of like recommended music on YouTube Music, I kept hearing them over and over again, and the more I listened to them, the more I really enjoyed them. And you know what? Generic metalcore doesn't have to be a derogatory term. If they do something well, they should be praised for that, and they did that very well with this album. This is metalcore at its metalcoreiest. You know, just you get the catchy choruses, you get the breakdowns, harsh vocals, great riffs. I mean, what more could you want? You get cool songs like Manic on here that have interesting influences like trap and things like that. I've become a big fan of this album, and it was absolutely my like biggest switch in opinion on any album that I listened to this year. Now, we're going to do my top 3 albums of the year, starting at number 3. At number 3, we have Glow On by Turnstile. Like I said in my singles video, Turnstile was a band that I was introduced to through the internet, and I kind of didn't get a chance to talk about them on the channel because I just kind of listened to them on my own. But man, was I blown away by this album. I listened to it so many times the first week when it came out, and it is just so fun and so catchy and so bouncy. I instantly was a fan. I just love what they're doing with hardcore music. I think they're making it so accessible and so much fun for the casual listener. For newcomers to the scene, this is such a huge album. I know that like a lot of young people are going to be interested in hardcore because of this album, and that is so, so important. So that is why they're getting my number 3 slot for the year. Absolutely incredible album. I know everyone is talking about it and has talked about it to death. So I'll just be very brief here. But you should absolutely go check it out. It is so much fun. Great production, great vocal performance. I love his vocals. You know, killer riffs. Every song has like a super catchy hook that just sticks in your head forever. So absolutely go check out Turnstile's Glow On. And at number 2, we have Silent Planet's Iridescent. This album came out of nowhere for me because Silent Planet has never really been on my radar. I never heard of them until the song Panopticon came out, and I was pretty impressed with that song, but I kind of just was like, all right, it's a small band, I'd never heard of them, cool. And then their album came out and everyone was raving about it, so I had to go check it out. And holy cow, when I listened to this album on a long drive home at night, and I just kind of had to sit in the car and like decompress for a couple minutes after the album finished. I don't even know how to describe how I felt after I finished listening to this. It was a surreal experience. Never have I heard something with so much emotion poured into the lyrics and the vocal performances. It was is so good. This album to me is like the perfect mixture of what I love about Spiritbox and Underoath and like the kind of modern metalcore scene, but taken to this like kind of artistic, interesting place. I don't know, it feels like an important album. Similar to the other albums on this list that I've talked about today, the lyrics have to do with, sort of what we're going through as a world and as a culture right now. And boy, Garrett really knows how to speak to that in a way that is so poignant and it really gets to the heart of the matter. And I really, really appreciate that. If you haven't heard this album, I'm begging you, go check it out. It is so good. And at number 1, I think you guys probably guessed it. It is Spiritbox's Eternal Blue. Album was so highly anticipated for me this year. I looked forward to it more than anything else. Maybe second to Underoath's upcoming album, but that got delayed to 2022. So this kind of took the spot of that in my mind. Like I said in my album review a few months ago, they just so masterfully blend pop and alternative music and metalcore and hardcore into this kind of new sound that sounds fresh. It sounds modern. It sounds so clean and polished. The production on this album is absolutely incredible. And Courtney and Bill and Mike and Zev are some of my favorite musicians ever now. And I have fallen in love with this band because of this album and because of the lead up to this album. I am just rooting for them so hard. I cannot wait for their next album, but I'm sure, they've got to do their victory lap because this album, it's topped so many number 1 album lists because it's just that good. The riffs are, technical and heavy and also very groovy. Courtney's vocals can be clean and pristine and beautiful 1 second, singing like an angel, and then she can bring out that growling demon the next second. I'm so impressed with everybody in this band, and there's just no skips on this album for me. I've listened to it so many times. It's absolutely my most listened to album of the year. I knew that from the moment I first heard it when I did my album reaction, listening to it on vinyl when it first came out. It just blew me away, and it continues to blow me away. Just the songwriting and everything about it is what I'm looking for in music these days. So props to Spiritbox for such an incredible album. I can't wait to see what's next. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for me today. Those were my top albums and EPs of the year. I would love to hear what your guys' top albums and EPs were in the comments down below. Like I said in my singles video, I love to see the diversity of the taste of the audience here. I think we have so many interesting people and so much interesting music taste spread across so many different cultures. So I'd love to see what your guys' top albums are in the comments down below. If you liked this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe. It really, really helps out the channel. There is so much cool music coming out these days, so why don't you come along for the ride and we'll all check it out together. I cannot wait to make more content for you guys in 2022. There's going to be so much new stuff we're going to try, not just reactions. I'm going to do streams, we're going to do like discussion videos talking about, different genres, different artists, and maybe the history of music, because I love music history and I'm very interested in the origins of certain sounds and certain tropes in music. So maybe we'll do some videos talking about that. Definitely going to do some videos talking about music gear, maybe some covers, all kinds of cool stuff coming up in 2022. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. That's going to do it for me today, and I will see you in the next one.